Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ankerstar Wealth Morning Show. I'm your host, Allison Ankerstar, and today we'll be talking about today's GDP number, the 2023 Social Security COLA, and what's going on with Meta stock. But before we begin, as a reminder, this is a financial education presentation and should not be construed as personal financial advice. Full disclaimer, information is available at ankerstarwealth.com. Good morning, Steve. The stock market is up today on the green U.S. GDP print for the third quarter. Does this mean the stock market bottom is in?
Well, hey, good morning, everybody, and good morning, Allison. It's been a while since we've done this show. Largely, that's on me. Allie has been busy with midterms and crushing it, as you would expect, so good job. But largely on me, working through some bronchitis, and honestly, it's hard. It's still even now hard enough to talk, and it's been a week later. So to catch you up on where I've been, I went to the Riskalyze Fearless Investing Conference last week in Salt Lake City. You know, I was in New York City at the JP Morgan Index Conference the week before that, and I should be at the First Trust ETF conference in Florida right now, but I can't. Whole family's sick, so we're at home kind of getting to be a better version of ourselves. So thank you for your patience on the videos. Thank you for folks that have asked out and said, hey, are you okay? Because normally you put a video out every day. So we're going to get this one out today. We also have we get inspected every 3 years. That's coming up next Thursday, November 3rd. So I do intend to still get videos out, but obviously getting video out is going to be second priority to doing inspection prep. So Candace and I are in the office working that, several hours a day, if you will. So I just make sure everything's perfect for you guys, get this all buttoned up, and then off to providing our first class of customer service to y'all. So the question Allison asked is, hey, what do we do about this green GDP print this morning? So GDP, gross domestic product, most people are familiar with the concept. So, when it's in the green, that means our economy is growing. When it's in the red, it's not. So let's talk about 2022. We started the year, first quarter was red. Second quarter was red. Now everybody knows that two back-to-back negative quarters of GDP mean what? Recession, right? So that means technically we're in a recession. What did the government say? We're not in a recession. We're at full employment. You just wait and see. Well, this is validation of the government's the something Economic Council. Learn more about exactly who makes that call. But the government said, no, we're not in a recession because of full employment. So here we are. This is really validation of, now that we're back in the green. For us to say that we have a recession now, we would need the fourth quarter, the one we're in now, to be red, and the first quarter to be red. I would have to imagine, since we're in the green for the third quarter, we'll probably actually be in the green for the fourth quarter. And then we'll see if we even have a recession at all next year. I still think we're set up for it. So I still think if you had to ask me today, are we going to have a recession? The answer is yes. And we will have it probably mid-23 somewhere, but it should be pretty mild after seeing that we're able to grow in this past third quarter. Also, I'll make this call for you. I think we will go back in time, as historians sometimes do, and recode the first half of this year as an actual recession, right? We didn't call it while we were in it when it was obvious. But I think especially if we don't ever have one or we have a light one in 23, we'll actually go back and say, let's just go ahead and call that a recession since we were actually in it. But, if you remember the video, it's like greatest recession ever, right? It does affect some folks out there and empathize with those folks. But for the most part, everybody else is trucking along, doing their thing, which is, the very American thing to do. So overall, Allison, the market's going to celebrate the fact that the economy didn't just get a third negative print for the GDP. So overall, this is a really good sign for the healthy economy and the healthy United States.
Next, the 2023 Social Security COLA is 8.7%. What does this mean for older?
Yeah, what does this mean? Well, everybody that's collecting, this is the SSA.gov website. So 8.7%, that's a lot, right? So it depends on, your payments. You have to do the math on your own. You can do a rough 10% WAG if you want. But basically, putting more money in the hands of older Americans who might even this might be their sole source of income. So from a society, from a feel-good perspective, this is great news. Their money keeps up with the inflation that we've had. And the good news about cost of living adjustments is once they take place, they stay in place, right? We don't ever have a negative one. We'll have a zero if we need to. And that's what we've seen If you go back and look at historical COLAs, you'll have big ones and they go back to small, and then we'll have a couple years where there's actually zero, right? If there's no inflation, we're a ways out from that, probably years, if you will. But overall, that's a good sign. Now, nothing's free, right? The money does come from somewhere. Social Security reform is going to have to end up being talked about by the politicians. I think 2030 something, 35, 32, somewhere the money is going to run out. So obviously some changes will be made. Will it affect me? No. It'll affect Allison, absolutely. So that's why it's important for young folks to educate themselves and get out and vote about these sorts of things, because otherwise the adjustments are all going to take place in future years, right? So small adjustments over time is the way that they'll probably find a way to fix the Social Security program. But overall, good news for the came out last week. So good news last week for the more money in the hands of older folks that likely need it the most.
Last, Meta stock is in free fall after last night's earning announcement. Is Meta a buy, sell, or hold?
Well, I'm just going to have to say it's a sell. I mean, it could be a hold if you have the ultimate faith, but after the mixed quarter they had last night, and then listening to Mark Zuckerberg and his vision for the future, he's all in. Okay. So that can be good and that can be bad, right? So it takes it out on the risk scale. We talk about risk all the time, but when a CEO is like, I'm all in on something that, if it doesn't happen, could Meta stock, fail and go to zero? Well, not quite zero, but it could go a lot lower than it is now. But they're all in on the metaverse. So we talked about the metaverse quite a bit in 2021. Stocks like Roblox, stocks like Unity Software, people getting into the avatars. A lot of the exposure that we've had to avatars, at least for older folks like myself, have been through, Snapchat and things like that, where it kind of makes it for you. It makes it very easy for you to go in and actually make an avatar. And you're like, oh, look, it's a much younger, better looking version of me, that sort of thing. Be whoever you want to be. Well, and then there was a craze with crypto, and then crypto was going to be the currency for the metaverse. I still think that's probably true, and probably the best currency that's meant for the metaverse. However, people were buying land in the metaverse. It's like, hey, buy your mansion next to LeBron James, who owns this mansion in the metaverse. And I don't know, it's a little tough conceptually for me to get my brain around. Maybe it's not wired that way. But if you're a teenager in these times, this metaverse thing could be real. I mean, and a lot of folks can think about, an entire alternate life in the metaverse, right? I don't know how it's all going to play out, but I do know that they've gone binary with, they've gotten away from their initial product again, Facebook proper, if you will, renamed the stock, renamed the company, and now he's all in on the metaverse. So, if you look at the chart of this, I mean, it's just a debacle. Unless you're into losing money, this is a stock chart that's just impressive, right? So I was back in the IPO. This is back when I was still on active duty. I remember where I was literally sitting at what desk there on the combat op floors over in Qatar, just outside of Doha when the IPO took place. The initial, pop up to 45. I bought down here at 17, I think just north of 17, actually. Sold at 33, bought back at 34 when I was listening to Zuckerberg talk about, rode this wave up. I don't know exactly where my exit is, but I went flat in Meta a while ago. It continued higher, and then look at this fall from 350 down to 100. I still think the next move is down, even though it's down 23% today. You may ask, like, why is Apple down based off of this news? It's all those index funds. They're all, Meta's such a major holding in all the technology funds. It's bringing the entire NASDAQ down with it today. So kind of bringing the companies down artificially. So if you are looking to get into other tech firms, you're getting a, selling point today. But overall, I think you got to stay clear of tech. Right now, it's been selling off. I think there is going to be a better entry point later on. But back to Allison's question here, I think you got to let Meta go. You got to sell it unless you're the believer of all believers in Meta. And if you sell it, maybe we're looking to get back in. But let's let it get down to like 70 or something, to where people think it's dead before we start buying back.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Please submit your questions as a comment through social media or directly to our email at vipservices@ankerstarwealth.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to get daily updates. That's all we have for today's show. I'm Allison Ankerstar, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.